Right guys, just going to go over that media stuff again, because I was actually watching something with Jonathan Pye yesterday, and it was quite funny, but also sort of ties in with the media manipulation, and I want to expand it out a little bit. There was something related to Google, and one of his emojis with a salad, that they removed the egg because it might be offensive to vegans. This is a typical example of stupidity. Why would a vegan get offended by an egg? That's the first thing. If they are, then if that's all they've got to worry about, it's this false sense of entitlement, which is constantly being pushed. Because a lot of the people that are complaining about stuff these days have never actually had any risks to it. I mean, the women's rights, they're not people that have had threat or violence or something that's actually, pushed women's rights. Yet they seem to be cherry picking what they deem is a right, when the average thing they're complaining about is actually privilege. In fact, it's just bullying and threatening to get what they want, regardless of consequence, and secondly, by bullying and abusive tactics. Now, for me, it's just very strange, because it's not empowerment, it's abuse. It's abuse of having rights and stuff that were built on rights that other people actually earned through risks to their lives, etc., etc. You don't hear people complaining from Saudi Arabia about there being an egg in an emoji. It's not. They have enough real problems, but it's just sad that Western society seems to think that these stupid little things have a high relevance. They don't. If that's all you've got to complain about, you should be thankful that that's all you've got to complain about, because you have very little risk to you whatsoever. But the reason I do bring it up is these people are proactive in attacking other people, in the sense that they will go and use social media against people. They will try and be very disruptive to real people over something that's trivial. This is the whole Me Too thing. Like I've said, I mean, when I was reading through it, and you sit there and going, so even if somebody's completely legal and doing nothing wrong, because you don't agree with it, you think you should destroy their career and their social presence. Well, guess what? You're more abusive than the average person out there these days. Far more abusive. Because the average person doesn't care. Like the egg thing. Either it's there or not, do I care? The answer is no. The thing relating to the Adelaide University with this whole mansplaining thing. You're having to read something into something that isn't really there. And it's like, oh, I'm angry about this. The average person doesn't see anything because it doesn't matter. It's not that, not only does it not matter, the reason they don't see it is because it's being made up. It's not targeted, it's not threatening, it's not people manipulating things. If anything, this whole divide and conquer thing becomes people doing it on purpose, and then sitting there and going, well, there's a conspiracy behind a lot of this. A lot of it is quite simply, people are often doing this to themselves. And I just sit there and think, you know what, why aren't they focused on something constructive? Why does somebody pump out memes about this stuff by the 100 or whatever? It's the same when you get people trolling. They sit there and they spend hours, months, days, years on stuff. And you sit there going, what could you have done with the same time? Because it's not about an objective. It's not about something that's going to be constructed from this or developed from it. It's purely counterproductive. It's just toxic waste. And at the same time, it can affect real issues, because like the stuff in the UK where, you know, I've seen people comment about working in some of these environments, and I've seen it in facilities management as well, where there's a policy for this, a policy for that, and you know what? That's how everything gets referred. Hi, we've got a problem with this. We have a policy for that. We don't have bullying here because we have an anti-bullying policy. We don't have racism here because we have an anti-bullying policy. At the same time, you will get people pull race cards. You will get people accuse people of harassment in the office and stuff. And then you find out it could be they were simply rejected by somebody else. They tried to go on a date with somebody, they rejected them and had an issue with it. But instead, the other person gets suspended while it's investigated. And is there an apology? Is there something in the newspaper that says that this person can't deal with their own emotions, instead try to blackmail somebody and force them out of the business? No. It's a one-way street. And it is a problem, and I do think this is why I think MGTOW is probably going about it the right way, because when you try and counteract a lot of this stuff, what happens is you get all this flack, which is sort of distorting things. And that gets onto Facebook. I'd recommend having a look at your Facebook feeds and write down how many people out of the hundreds you probably got in your Facebook are actually showing up on your timeline on a regular basis, and what types of posts are coming up. Because I know I have a lot of American friends on mine, and I do wonder why I'm seeing so much political stuff, considering I couldn't care less if Trump was in or out. What I have in it, if you ask me about Trump, is he a good leader? I would say you can't deem somebody good or bad in such a short period of time, but at the same time, I recognise the fact that he's getting way more negative media coverage than is fair to him. At the same time, I recognise it's constantly being fed in Facebook. Yet, I have no interest in Trump. The thing that I do like about Trump is he did destabilise some of the business as usual stuff. But as somebody was, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger would come up on my feed yesterday, he was talking about the coal industry. Now, this is where you get baited into stuff, where you start going and researching it, or you just accept what people say. Myself, I just what I've started doing is simply getting rid of this stuff from my feed. But the thing is, from what I'm seeing, it seems that I get the same people over and over again in my feed, and it's predominantly all political. I'm not seeing cat pictures. I'm not seeing predominantly people with their kids. It's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump. Like over and over again. And yet, I'm not even American. Why am I getting this garbage? I do get stuff relating to what they call Brits Reunited and things like that, which is to do with some of the immigration issues around the UK. But even then, I don't engage too much in there, because there's too many socialists in there that believe anybody should go to the UK and all that stuff. I can't do that crap, because for me it's just dumb. And if you have a open border policy, it simply has never worked anywhere. The same as when people say, well, there's never been a socialist government. There's been plenty of socialist governments, but ultimately the same thing happens the same with any other government. Power corrupts, and it always has done. So I do not embrace socialism. I can't embrace it because, as I put on somebody's Facebook, I think it was a couple of days ago, give away everything you got to people less fortunate than you. Give it a day and then see how you get on. In other words, they ain't gonna give you nothing back, because now you're less fortunate. They ain't gonna give you nothing, because that's pretty much it. Everybody sit on the curb hoping that somebody will get off and go to work, and that's the problem with socialism. It's built on that, and that's not what it should be. I mean, what it should be is everybody should work and pull their weight and work together as a pool, but yeah, it's generally driven by people that have lower education or never had a job, like Jeremy Corbyn and things like that, rather than focused on the importance of where do we go from here today. I mean, that's one of the things I did say about the video with Arnold Schwarzenegger about the coal industry, because about Trump trying to rejuvenate the coal industry, which is obsolete, etc., etc. Well, one of the things you've got in the US is the coal industry has been quite strong lobbying against solar and renewable energies. And I should know a lot of the subsidies got cut, and that's one of the reasons that we mothballed our call center. But ultimately, the coal industry, there's plenty of coal around, and one of the problems you've got with renewables, if you're blocking its development, is it becomes costly. But at the same time, that's not open trade, that's not an open market, that's not people competing on a level playing field for energy. It's the coal industry, a nuclear industry, trying to keep the market cornered for themselves. Now, like I said, I didn't really review into it too much, but if that's what Trump's going down that path to do, then he's doing exactly what every other government person normally does at that level. They get lobbied and corrupt. The coal industry, no doubt, employs thousands. And one of the things Arnold Schwarzenegger said, which is incorrect, is you should be training people for the next technology, in the sense that wind turbines, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't work that way. The coal industry employs a lot more people and would continue employing way more people than renewables would. The failure rate would be a lot less. So you need a lot more, a handful of engineers compared to several hundred people that work to do the same sort of workload. And the other thing you've got is, once the renewables are constructed, up and running, you're mainly looking at replacements for damaged units and whatever, along with the just general maintenance and operations. It's hardly any people. And one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's arguments should be training people for the next technology. We're not at that phase anymore, I'll be honest with you, and that's one of the things I would say, for if that is Trump's viewpoint, to keep people employed, I can understand that, but it is counterproductive in the sense that those jobs are gone. You know, once they're gone, they're gone. The reason being is renewables don't need that many people. We're in the realms of automation. The more automated the world becomes, the less people are required, yet at the same time the population growth continues. There is not enough industries being generated that can take the number of people out there. Bearing in mind that you're replacing skilled engineers, you're wanting skilled engineers for solar energy and what have you. But somebody down a mine shaft, they're not that way educated. And that's one of the things that is a big problem now, is a lot of people are simply not fit for purpose for a lot of jobs. Whether people like it or not, their IQ's too low, their ability's too low. A lot of people aren't even smart enough to be in a lot of the military jobs these days, even the most basic ones, because I don't know what's going on. I mean, one of the things, I can understand it from the UK, and I've seen it myself, where you'll have some woman popping out kids, and I remember an ex-partner's sister, a cousin. She had 9 kids from different fathers, and if there was one kid that was capable of doing a job out of those 9, I'd be shocked, because she didn't spend any time with the kids. They were all uneducated. The mother was uneducated. Even when she spoke, you thought she's thick as anything. And those are the breeders. These are the people that are generating large numbers of kids. The 2.4s and whatever, the ones that are middle class and in the higher class, they don't breed. The numbers are actually going, I would hazard a guess, the numbers are probably going sideways or downwards. At the end of the day, they're definitely not breeding at the same rate as people are at a lower level. At the same time, you're looking at an education system that is also encouraging people to be a lot thicker than they need to be. Where do we go with that? You're getting more and more people that simply would never have a job or can't have a job. And yet, we're in an environment that is not socialist and not capable of accommodating these numbers of people that need a career yet aren't capable of having one. Yeah, I mean, that is the problem. And I know in the UK they don't really want to combat it because the percentage on those, that is the vote. That is the power of the vote. This is why they don't really want to talk or combat these things. You know, it's all a bit skewed and weird. But I really don't understand it, because even from a socialist stance, you would expect to go for an empowerment, which would be a highly educated nation, where you actually pump the education system. You know, at the end of the day, you got that out of Venezuela, I suppose, but Cuba definitely, where they invested in the education system. Doesn't mean it's not flawless, because at the end of the day, corruption trumps everything. But at the same time, if you're producing doctors and things that can go overseas, then you'll have a higher chance of your economy being more stable, because you're actually exporting people. If you haven't got that, what have you got? What have you got when you've got a 50% unemployed and unemployable population, when they can only pull a handle and press a button, and they can't do much more than that? And even that, you've got to build safety into everything to a point that somebody pressing their button and sticking their hand in it, it becomes the manufacturer's fault that they could stick their hand in it. I don't understand how low we can go. I mean, a lot of these people wouldn't have survived, you know, the old days of getting chased by lions. They would have lasted a week. Now they're not only lasting a lifetime, but also living on benefits off the back of everybody else as well. Something wrong with society. Thanks for watching.